He tries to seem indifferent, but his body gives him away. I'm Nira Elowin, and sometimes what he tries to hide is exactly what reveals him the most. Today, you'll understand the silent signs of repressed desire and learn not to mistake silence for lack of interest. The body reveals what the mouth censors. He hesitates. He gets close enough for you to feel him, but never close enough to make it real. A gesture that almost happens, a touch that dies midair, a glance that gets lost on the way. When a man wants something but can't sustain his own wanting, his body becomes the stage for a silent war between desire that pulses and fear that holds back. Body language betrays those trying to hide what they feel, because while words can be chosen, rehearsed, censored, the body doesn't lie. A slight lean in when you speak, a glance that finds you even when he pretends not to see. His breathing changes rhythm when you walk in. The body reveals what the mind tries to deny. Repressed desire doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Instead of a confession, it becomes tension. Instead of touch, it becomes restraint. Neuroscience explains, when the brain tries to suppress attraction, it activates areas linked to inhibitory control. But there's a cost, because the more he tries to hide, the more he shows. Have you noticed this? That strange silence when you get close. The way he pulls away, but doesn't leave, as if he's trying to protect something he doesn't even know how to name. You're not crazy for picking up on this. You're clear-minded. You've sensed his internal conflict, something not even he can fully process. The dilemma of, I want to, but I can't. I feel it, but I don't know what to do with it. And here's a truth you may not have heard yet. He doesn't hesitate because he doesn't feel. He hesitates because feeling draws him closer. And that scares him. Don't romanticize his hesitation as emotional depth. Often, it's just an inability to take responsibility for what you awaken in him. Stop interpreting half signs as full confessions. The almost that keeps repeating is just absence dressed up as presence. You deserve a touch that doesn't tremble, a gaze that doesn't flee, a presence that doesn't need decoding. The repetition of casual encounters. You start to notice he always happens to show up. A shared event, a familiar place, a casual message after days. Coincidence? Not always. When a man feels something but doesn't want to commit, he engages in a disguised form of staying. He doesn't stay, but he also doesn't leave. Q1. Human brain seeks out what brings pleasure, even if it denies it in words. Enter dopamine, the neurotransmitter of anticipation. Every time he bumps into you by chance, he gets a hit of emotional energy. No commitment, no vulnerability. Just the taste of your presence. It's like he's staging little rehearsals of connection. A light touch, a double-meaning comment, a glance that says more than it should. And then, he disappears again. This repetition isn't innocence, it's maintenance. He tests the emotional temperature without diving in. He makes sure you're still orbiting, reacting, waiting. And through that, he feeds his ego without offering anything real. Have you ever wondered why these coincidences only happen when you start pulling away? Why he reappears just when you're almost at peace? Because deep down, he sees your absence as a loss, but not as his responsibility. And this creates a dangerous pattern. Encounters that feel like fate, but are actually control. He's not ready to sustain real presence, so he prefers to keep you close under the illusion of coincidence. You feel special in those moments, but they leave you more confused than before. And here's the key. Someone who truly wants you won't settle for chance encounters. He seeks you, claims you, stays. You are not a background player in his ego's theater. You are not the side effect of unresolved desire. Breathe and start. Tracking the invisible pattern. How many times has he shown up just to keep you close, without really getting close? Because the more you ignore the game, the more power you gain to walk away from it. Too many casual encounters are just absence disguised as fate. The emotional hypervigilance he pretends not to have. He says everything's fine. That he doesn't care. That he doesn't think about it. But he notices everything. The tone of your voice, the timing of your message, the caption on your latest post. He acts like nothing gets to him, but he's always watching. Because emotionally, avoidant men don't ignore, they monitor. This hypervigilance isn't affection, it's control. He picks up on your silences, remembers details you forgot you shared, and then acts distracted. As if silently observing you is less risky than truly engaging. That's the paradox. He pays too much attention for someone who doesn't care. You've experienced this. The way he reacts when you change a pattern. If you take longer to reply, he shows up. If you stop commenting, he pokes. Not directly, but subtly. A strategic like. An unexpected reaction. A vague question just to keep the thread going. The absence of expression doesn't mean the absence of feeling. Sometimes it's just a way of maintaining control. The avoidant man fears his own desire, because to feel exposes him, and exposure to him is risk, of loss, of vulnerability, of no return. So he fakes indifference, but moves with surgical precision behind the scenes. It's a form of involvement that doesn't declare itself, but still dominates. And here's the shift. Don't confuse self-control with disinterest, or monitoring with love. You don't need to feel special because he's watching. You need to feel free from connections that require constant decoding. Stop trying to interpret his actions. People who truly care communicate. Those who only observe manipulate. And if he cares so much about what you do but never says what he feels, then maybe he just wants to keep you where he can see you, not where you can be happy. Subtle aggression as a defense against affection. He teases you, uses sarcasm, slips in little digs during conversations, and still, he never ignores you. It might seem like flirting, it might seem like banter, but it's a defense mechanism. Because for some men, showing affection is dangerous, so they attack instead of surrender. It's distorted affection, a compliment laced with venom, a joke that stings, a comparison that diminishes. He can't treat you gently, because that brings him closer, and closeness forces him to feel. Feeling destabilizes him, and losing control terrifies him. You've noticed this, the way he acts when you're doing too well. When you smile and drift away, he throws a comment that cuts, as if he needs to pull you back into conflict. This subtle aggression is armor, a primitive way of shielding his fear of vulnerability. He confuses tenderness with weakness, and would rather seem cold than admit how much he feels. But that's not strength. It's emotional cowardice. And here's the hard truth. He hurts you because he doesn't know what to do with the tenderness he feels. And you? Maybe you romanticized it. Thought the teasing meant interest. That the sarcasm was charm. That the criticism was attention. It wasn't. It was a frozen emotional system trying not to collapse under affection. And you know what disarms that kind of man? Silence. Don't react to the thorns. Don't try to explain, justify, or decode. Those who hurt to avoid feeling deserve distance to reflect. You're not obligated to endure someone's emotional outbursts just because they refuse to grow. The technique is simple. Don't take the bait. Observe, protect yourself, and step away when the attack becomes routine. Because real love doesn't throw barbs to stay close. It shows up with respect, not tension. 5. The ghost return. He disappears, but doesn't leave. He disappears, and you try to accept it. You go silent, pretend it didn't hurt, try to move on. But then, he comes back. Not with a big declaration, but with a late-night message. A reply to your story. A random memory thrown your way. He returns like he never left. This is the ghost return, a type of presence that won't commit to you, but refuses to let you go. He doesn't claim you, doesn't take care of the connection, doesn't follow through, but he doesn't release you either. And every time he reappears, he reactivates the memory of what could have been and never was. You felt this, the sensation of being emotionally held, even when he's physically absent, like your life is always on emotional pause, waiting for his next notification. This pattern has a name: intermittent attachment. And it's more common and more cruel than it seems. What's behind this isn't love. It's emotional dysregulation. He gets close only to the point he can emotionally tolerate. And when he feels too much, he runs. Because emotionally, immature men confuse affection with threat. He doesn't come back because he chose you. He comes back because he can't stand being forgotten. It's hard to hear, I know, but it's necessary. His brain links your response to his emotional relief. It's as if he's silently saying, desire me, but don't expect anything. Want me, but don't ask for more. Keep me, but only to the point I can handle. And just like that, he turns your presence into food for his ego. He disappears, leaves you in limbo, and returns only when your absence becomes louder than he can bear. And the most dangerous part of this cycle is that it becomes addictive. Because every time he vanishes, your attachment system goes into alert. And when he comes back, the relief is so great that you mistake it for love. It's an emotional accordion: stretch, contract, stretch again. And somewhere in the middle, you lose your sense of self. You start to normalize the pain, to expect the unpredictable, to accept emotional crumbs in the name of a connection that never solidifies. But today, I need to tell you, disappearing isn't a sign of confusion. It's a lack of courage. He knows the effect he has on you. He knows showing up again will reactivate everything in you. And still, he chooses to return without ever truly staying. Maybe he's afraid of the intensity of what he feels. Maybe he doesn't know how to handle vulnerability. But none of that justifies keeping you in emotional limbo. A woman once wrote, "To me, I realized his disappearance was fear of being emotionally exposed. He wasn't running from me. He was running from everything I made him feel." And that awareness, that's what freed her from the cycle. You're not here to be anyone's rehearsal. You're not an emotional intermission. You are the decision he never had the courage to make. But that doesn't mean you have to keep waiting. He imitates you without realizing it. You begin to notice. He repeats words only you used, laughs in a way that sounds like you, starts sending voice notes with pauses, expressions, intonations that could have come from your own mouth. He starts becoming, little by little, a skewed version of you. But if you ask, he'll deny it. He'll say it's a coincidence. He'll pretend he doesn't feel anything. But his body knows. His subconscious gives it away. This is called emotional mirroring. And it's rooted in neuroscience. Mirror neurons cause us to unconsciously mimic the gestures, language, and postures of people we're attracted to. A primitive way of connecting. It's the brain saying, I want to belong to this. In his case, though, it's not conscious. It's impulse. He observes you, shapes himself, absorbs your traits. Because that's safer than admitting what he feels. By imitating you, he gets close without having to take responsibility. He stays nearby without having to declare any intention. It's desire disguised as casual behavior. An unspoken affection trying to survive without exposure. You've seen this, haven't you? He starts liking the same movies, pretends he's always loved that song you adore, uses one of your phrases as if it were his own. And deep down, it feels like he's trying to live in your world, without knocking on the door. But don't be fooled. This isn't surrender, it's self-protection. Because to feel fully would require courage to say it out loud. And he doesn't want to commit to what he feels. So instead, he becomes a reflection, a copy, an indirect closeness. This attempt at emotional fusion might look like tenderness, but in truth, it reveals unresolved desire, stuck between the longing to be with you and the fear of losing himself. He tries to become a part of you, without admitting he wants to be with you. And that's dangerous, because the repetition can look like intimacy. The similarity can look like connection. But it's all just a mirror, a relationship where you see yourself, but he's not really there. You get caught up in the signs. You think the mirroring is harmony, but he's just trying to access you without revealing himself. And every time you get emotionally touched by it, he reinforces the pattern. Here's the hard truth. Someone who needs to become you in order to get close still doesn't know who he is. You're not a mold. You're not an emotional extension of anyone. You're a universe of your own, and you deserve someone who approaches with identity, not imitation. It can feel flattering to see someone mirror your ways, but it only counts when it comes with emotional maturity. Because if he can only be with you by being you, then maybe he never loved you. Maybe he only loved the idea of living inside what you represent. And to love someone like that is to get lost in an echo. He validates his absence with rational justifications. I'm focusing on myself. I don't want to hurt you. I'm not ready. Phrases that sound mature, responsible, honest. But in truth, they're shields. Polished ways to hide an emotional truth he either can't or won't face. When a man desires but fears feeling, he doesn't disappear in silence. He builds justifications. He uses logic to silence the heart and turns his withdrawal into an acceptable narrative. It's the rationalization of absence. You've heard it before. That well-articulated explanation with measured words and a calm tone, as if everything is under control. As if his pulling away is the wisest thing to do. And for a moment, you almost believe he's being fair. But something inside you tightens. Because if it were only rational, it wouldn't hurt this much. What he's doing is silencing his desire, without extinguishing it. He says he can't, that it's not the right time, that he needs to find himself. But he still lingers. A like, a vague message, a memory dropped into your timeline. He doesn't want to disappear. He just wants to justify his fear. And here's the dilemma. He needs to distance himself to stay in control, but doesn't want you to go too far. That's why his justifications always sit in the middle. Never a true goodbye. Always a not. Right now. He doesn't close the door, just leaves it slightly ajar. Because if you walk through it, he loses the comfort of knowing he can come back. This is the emotional trap that holds so many women. False respect, masking emotional. Cowardice. You start thinking, maybe he'll come back when he's ready. Maybe he needs this time. Maybe he's being honest. But here's the truth that can set you free. Honesty isn't saying you're not ready. It's not lighting a fire you have no intention of keeping warm. The problem isn't that he stepped back. It's that he wants to keep you waiting while he figures himself out. And you, left on a shelf, in the almost, in the what if. But you're no one's emotional pause. You're not the background of anyone's personal journey. Next time he says, I don't want to hurt you, respond with silence, then stop coming back. Because someone who truly intends to care leaves completely. And someone who knows what he feels doesn't hide behind logic. What he fears to admit isn't in the words he says. It's in the lack of courage to back up what he feels. And now you know how to listen with a different filter. Because sometimes the most dangerous phrase isn't I love you. It's you deserve someone better. Said by someone who never tried to be that person. 8. The shadow of unlived affection. What isn't lived weighs heavy. Unspoken affection, love never expressed, feelings swallowed. All of it turns into shadow. And when unacknowledged, that shadow becomes a ghost, haunting gestures, silences, and future connections. He didn't live what he felt for you, out of fear, out of pride, out of immaturity. And maybe, to this day, he carries that affection like emotional debt with no place to pay it. But don't expect him to say that. Instead of confession, you'll see control. Instead of longing, you'll get criticism. Instead of tenderness, you'll feel distance. It's the love that never got to exist, now leaking out in microaggressions, little ways to keep you under his thumb. As if you were responsible for the pain that was born from his denial. Carl Jung said that everything we repress turns into shadow, and shadow doesn't disappear. It acts. Silently, distorted in the background. You might notice it in the subtlest gestures, the way he gets uneasy when you're doing well, how your lightness bothers him, how seeing you move on makes him uncomfortable, because to him, you represent everything he lost by not having the courage to live it. And so, he comes back, or sends signals, not out of love, but because the absence of what you never shared has become a constant reminder. But this ghost is no longer yours. You felt, you wanted, you showed up. The shadow belongs to him now, because unlived love turns into discomfort, and discomfort becomes an attempt at control. He tries to minimize you, to minimize his regret. But don't confuse. This isn't resentment. It's unmanaged guilt. He doesn't ignore you out of indifference. He watches you out of unacknowledged longing. And here's a metaphor that might help you understand. He's a poem that was never read aloud. But you've stopped memorizing the verses. You don't need to carry his part anymore. It's not your responsibility to heal the fear of someone who didn't have the courage to love you fully. If he had chosen to live what he felt, maybe the story would have been different. But he chose fear, and fear has consequences. You deserve a love that exists, that speaks, that touches, that stays. Not a shadow that only shows up when the light of your absence frightens him. If he came back today, would you open the door or open your eyes? Someone who desires in silence but never truly chooses you doesn't deserve your time. If this spoke to you, hit subscribe. Here, truth comes before hope. And tell me in the comments, which of these signs did you ignore longer than you should have?